actually going to hop over to information security because you were mentioning working with cloud native tools, which obviously becomes more and more common every day. And a big area we've been covering lately and looking into is cloud security posture management and cloud native application protection platforms. And I'm just curious if you've digged into this area within information security at all, and if you have anything to add to the conversation here.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we ever finish a conversation without the security aspect of it, right? I mean, we live in a real world with the threat about the information security is much higher, and let alone once we are in the public cloud, we kind of increased. We solve one problem, we create another one. Is what I feel. I think everything is hugely looked at as a potential risk in the public cloud. So we spend a lot of time now, which we used to not spend, is around the networking and the security posture of our applications in the cloud. We have our own tenancy in the public cloud. We are very particular about how we expose our applications in the public cloud with no public internet exposure. We use some of these things like Microsoft Defender, Zscaler. I mean, yes, some of these are very Cisco Cloud Security, obviously, yes. Checkpoint, yes. I mean, these are some of these products that are very heavily used in this one. With Okta is another one that does our authentication for us. Again, a cloud software. So the entire posture is very well defined and constantly evolving in there, from the access perspective to consumption perspective, and how we ingest to how we consume and how we leave and what we leave behind, the perspective, right? I mean, when we were on-prem, I would say organization of our size was very what you call indisciplined, because we would just leave data behind and say, okay, now who wants to archive the data? I mean, yeah, let it be. Let's just put it in the tapes or somewhere, and we'll get to it, because the cost of archiving the data is much higher than the leaving it behind and storing it, right? But now in the public cloud, once we started to pay for it heavily, we have the temperature control model where what needs to be readily available in the hot zone, and then what's the warm and what the cold, and how we use that data across what we replicate. Very intentional architecture, I would say. But in information security, I think that was your original question, gets discussed in every aspect of it. We have a tighten the governance, we tighten the processes that makes these decisions on every software here, and make sure that nobody gets to the public cloud just because they are one application. Everything has to go through 15 or 16 different reviews before we put that first application in the cloud.
Certainly. So you mentioned a couple of vendor names here, like Zscaler, Okta, and Microsoft Defender. And I'm curious if you could elaborate on any pros or cons of using some of those tools in the stack.
Well, I think again, I may not be the best person to reflect on that, because again, we have a whole different organization that just focuses on info security, right?
Sure.
They again, like our previous example, they do the constant evaluation of different softwares, and they kind of compartmentalize the usage of that software for a specific need, right? In my simplistic mind, I call that as a decision tree, right? So if I want to go and authenticate my application, Okta is the one that we use. You're going to use Okta, right? There is no wiggle room in there. No, all enterprise applications have to use Okta, period. And they are responsible, and there's one support group. So similarly, there is a space for Zscaler, there's a space for Microsoft Defender, there's a space for Checkpoint, CloudGuard. I mean, those are very prescriptively used in those places, and there is not any option given, and which is rightfully so. Having come from a legacy background where everybody was making their own decisions, and we end up having 500 plus different platforms for just for BI. We learned our lesson, and now we are more prescriptive and says, okay, let this architect group, and then they prescribe a particular thing, if and then run the decision tree top bottom and say this is what we're going to use.